4 years ago, I met the love of my life. He was charming, kind, and everything I had ever hoped for in a partner. We met through mutual friends, and from the moment we started talking, there was an undeniable connection. We shared many common interests, values, and dreams for the future. He told me he was Muslim, but assured me that he wasn't very religious and that it wouldn't be an issue in our relationship. At the time, I was relieved because I'm a devout Christian, and my faith is an integral part of who I am. As our relationship blossomed, we faced the usual challenges and joys of any couple. We traveled together, celebrated holidays with our respective families, and supported each other through ups and downs. Religion rarely came up in our conversations, and when it did, it was more about understanding each other's cultures, rather than any serious discussions about faith. Fast forward to a few months ago. We had been together for nearly 4 years, and I was beginning to think about the next steps in our relationship. I imagined us getting married, starting a family, and building a future together. So, I brought up the topic of marriage, expecting it to be a joyful conversation about our shared dreams. Instead, it turned into a moment of unexpected and profound revelation. He looked at me with a seriousness I had rarely seen before, and said, "I love you more than anything. But if we are to get married, you will need to convert to Islam." His words hit me like a ton of bricks. I was stunned, speechless, and my mind was racing. I asked him why he had never mentioned this before, why he had always said that religion wasn't a big deal to him. He explained that while he isn't particularly religious himself, his family holds traditional values, and they would expect me to convert if we were to marry. The weeks that followed were some of the most difficult of my life. I felt like I was being torn in 2 directions. On one hand, I loved him deeply and couldn't imagine my life without him. On the other hand, my faith is a core part of my identity, and the thought of abandoning it was heartbreaking. I felt betrayed that he had kept this from me for so long, but I also understood the pressure he must be under from his family. We had countless discussions, some ending in tears, others in silent frustration. He tried to reassure me, telling me that converting wouldn't change who I am, that I could still practice my Christian beliefs privately, but it didn't feel right. I had always been taught that faith isn't just a private matter, but something to be lived openly and honestly. My family, devout Christians themselves, were supportive but also concerned. They knew how much I loved him, but they also worried about the implications of such a significant change. They reminded me that marriage is a partnership, and both partners should enter it without sacrificing their core beliefs. One particularly painful moment came when I visited my parents for the weekend. I needed their advice and comfort more than ever. Sitting at the kitchen table, I poured out my heart to them, explaining everything that had happened. My mother held my hand and said, "Honey, you have to stay true to yourself. Love is important, but so is your faith. You shouldn't have to choose between them." Despite their support, the decision was still mine to make. I spent sleepless nights praying, crying, and thinking about what my future would look like. Could I convert and still feel like myself? Would his family ever truly accept me? Or would I always be seen as the outsider who changed her faith for marriage? And what about our future children? How would we raise them in a home divided by religion? He and I continued to talk, trying to find a middle ground. He suggested we could have a dual-faith household, but the reality was that his family's expectations wouldn't change. They wanted a Muslim daughter-in-law, and nothing less would be acceptable.